가족,
As a child, I had to learn a list of kanji every week for a weekly kanji test. 30 years later, my sons do the same, but they have to learn a list of words for their spelling test in school. And even if there is 30 years difference, the advice given is always the same. You need to repeat and write and write and write to memorize the words. But repetition is only one of the keys. There are a few other things that needs to be taken into account to ensure proper memorization. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about these other aspects. So let's check it out. Hello everyone, this is Yoshito Momori. I'm the founder of the Library for Multilinguals, and on this channel, I share with you tips to help you teach your child to read and write in your home languages in a fun way. So if this is a topic that interests you, make sure to subscribe to your channel and ring the bell icon. Repetition is indeed key to memorization. But the other aspect I would like to talk to you about today, or the cognitive effort, which means the conscious effort you put to memorize something, the cognitive load, which is how much information is thrown at your brain while you're trying to learn, and the emotional involvement of your child. In 2014, there's been a research published that shows how repetition indeed helps reinforce the memory. However, it explains that it helps only with the core information. All the details around are forgotten. So for writing, it could be accents forgotten, letters forgotten, double letters forgotten, all these small details. And we have to keep in mind that when a child is learning to read and write in their home language, they're exposed less to that language. So we need to be a lot more efficient. And that's what I would like to talk to you about in this video. But before that, I would like to remind you that when your child is learning to speak in their home language, they probably have a lot less vocabulary than someone who's growing up in a country where the language is the majority language. So the first thing I would say is that if you give your child a list of words to learn, you need to make sure that they know what they mean. Because even if a child can learn to spell words for tests, they're not going to be able to use them afterwards if they don't know what they mean. And of course, we don't teach our children for tests, we teach them to be able to expand their vocabulary, to use them in real life situations. So what can we do to help our children memorize the spelling of words or the strokes necessary to write a kanji? The first thing to do would be to reduce the cognitive load. In other words, if they have too many details thrown at them, they won't be able to remember any of them. So we need to reduce the amount of details they need to pay attention to. So let me give you a quick example with numbers that's going to make that all very clear. You have here 25 random numbers. How long do you think it's going to take you to memorize all of them in order? You can pause the video and carry on when you think you're ready. So now let's see if you can remember this number and say it with me. 1, 4, 0, 7, 1, 7, 8, 9, 2, 4, 1, 2, 1, 0, 0, 0, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 3, 9, 4, 5. Did you manage? I did. So how long do you think it took me to memorize it? Well, to be honest, I cheated a bit because I chose the numbers. So to help me memorize it, I just grouped them and made sense of all of them. So the first 8 numbers were Bastille Day. For every French person, that's a very memorable day and everyone would know it. It's the 14th of July, 1789. The next 4 digits are Christmas Eve, so 24th of December. Then after that, you have 1000, which is a very round number, that you can easily remember. Then you have the beginning of the number pi, so 3.1415. And after that, you have the dates of the Second World War, 1939 to 1945. So if all these groups of numbers make sense for you, it was just a matter of remembering 5 facts. Bastille Day, Christmas Eve, 1000, pi, and the Second World War. So not 25 different digits randomly put one after the other, but 5 facts. So obviously it makes it a lot easier to remember 5 things than 25 things. So these are called cues. It helps you remember something without having to remember the thing. You just need to remember the cue to go back in your memory to remember the thing you had to remember. So what does it mean in terms of reading and writing? So when you want to remember how to spell things, something really easy is to remember spelling rules. For example, in French, there are loads of silent letters at the end of words. They're not just random most of the time. They are there to remind you that they are linked to words that are part of the same family of words. So for example, in French, in vent, you have a T at the end, which is silent. You say vent, not vent. However, if you talk about a fan, you say ventilateur. You hear the T. And if you talk about a fan, it's called un éventail. So again, it's vent. So the T, you can hear it. So this can remind you that there is a T at the end. Mnemonics are another way to help you remember something complex with something easy. It's not like rules that are logical and that are actually true. It's just a way you found to help you remember something. So for example, when I'm teaching my students Spanish, they don't really know when you have double letters. So I tell them, remember the name Carolina. It's a name that's easy for them to remember. It's Spanish, it's related to their subject. But also, the reason I give them this name is because all the consonants are those that can be doubled in Spanish. So if you have another word and you're struggling to remember if it has a double letter or not, you can just think, is it part of Carolina? Is it C-R-L-N? If it's not, you can't double it. So a mistake I see often is aburrido, written with double B. So if you look at Carolina, you can see that there is no B in Carolina, so you can't double the B. And the double letter is the R. The same thing goes for posible, which is very similar to possible in English, but in English you need a double S. In Spanish, you just need one S. And to remember that, you can remember that in Carolina, you don't have any S. And as a child, when I tried to remember the different spelling of the homophones empreinte et empreinte, which is to, like, I borrow, and a mark or a fingerprint, I used the difference between the two. So one is UN, one is EIN for the sound un. And the mnemonic I created was that the U in empreinte looks like your hands when you're asking for something to borrow something. So you can see a U here. And the EIN is a bit more squiggly. It's a bit like your fingerprints. So EIN would be for fingerprint or mark. So now let's talk about emotional involvement. When your child is involved and they want to learn, they're going to remember it better than if they're bored and they don't care about it. I'm pretty sure you had the same when you're listening to someone you find really boring, or you read something really boring. After a few minutes, you just realize you are not even listening or reading properly. You don't remember anything. It's the same for our children. So involving them emotionally is really important, because if they want to learn, if they're paying attention, it's going to stick in their head. And you probably know me by now, but my favorite way to engage my students, my children, is games. It's a lot of fun, and if you make the thing they have to remember what's going to help them win the game, for example, they're going to pay attention. It's going to stick in their head. So let me give you a few examples of games. You have hangman, crosswords, and unjumble the words. They're all based on the same principle, where you have a set number of letters, and one letter is going to help you guess the others, work out where the others go. And having a limited number of possibilities is going to help your child work out the whole word, and this is going to help them pay attention to the details. I'm going to show you a quick extract of a previous video I made to show you how having a certain number of letters helped your child pay attention to certain details. So for example, you can see that in jumping, he first wrote jumping, so J-U-M-P-I-M-G. Then he worked out that it couldn't be I-M-G, and he swapped the letters around, N and M. So that can help a lot with remembering the spelling. And if you want to watch the full video, I'll link it in the description below. Another game I'd like to talk to you about is a game I played as a child where one person was leaving a room, changing a few items of clothing and coming back, and we had to guess what had changed. Have you noticed what has changed with me? Yeah, the glasses and the little pendant that I hung up here. The aim of this game was to spot the details that had changed. And in the same way, you can play this game using words to ask your child to pay attention to what has changed. So because they will be drawn to finding what is different, they will have paid more attention. It will be more likely that they remember it. So let me show you how we can play that with letters. I have on this board a French sentence, le garçon est très curieux. And on the other side, I have this sentence, very similar. I'll let you find the three differences. So if you have seen it, well done. So there is the CD under the C that has disappeared. There is the accent that has disappeared. And curieux is spelled curieux. So here I targeted things that my son, who goes to school in England, might have missed out. So accents or CD that don't exist in English, he might forget them or not really pay attention to them. And I can come back on the certain graphemes, how to read certain combination of letters. So for example, O-U make the sound OU, but E-U make the sound E. And it's not curieux, but curieux. So by pointing at these details, my son will be more likely to remember these details. Also, in English, curious and curieux in French look very similar. So you can also point at the differences between the two languages, so it's really clear what are the differences. And they don't just start thinking that both words are the same. So I hope this video gave you a good idea of what you can do to help your child be more accurate in the writing when it comes to spelling the words or writing the different characters with the right number of strokes. And if you'd like to get more of these tips, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon. Bye everyone!